There is a significant event in recent history that changed the lives of millions, yet very few people know about it. Immediately following World War II, the ethnic Germans were expelled from Central and Southern Europe and put into concentration camps. Survivors ended up all over the world, and the immigrants that came to Chicago formed societies to build a new life, maintain their culture, and preserve their stories. In the southeast of Europe, an area that is now known as Banat is a region that has been settled and resettled many times by powerful empires. Today, Banat would be found in Hungary, Romania, and Serbia. The land was under the control of the Ottoman Empire for 150 years, beginning in the 15th century. In the early 1700s, the Austrian Empire, led by Prince Eugen of Savoy, battled the Ottomans and acquired the land through a peace treaty with them. After the Treaty of 1718, the Habsburg Emperors of Austria invited the Germans to leave their homes and settle in the Banat territory because they wanted to populate the land. The early settlers traveled on the Danube River using flat boats made out of wood called boxes or Schachtel. They departed from Regensburg and Ulm in Germany and traveled as far as Belgrade. Once they reached their destination, they took apart their boats and built homes with the lumber. When Maria Theresa of Austria became queen in 1740, the recruitment of German settlers was intensified. According to author Erich Kavora, between 1740 and 1790, more than 100,000 Germans immigrated to the newly expanded empire. Maria Theresa made it attractive to migrate by allowing the ethnic Germans to keep their language, culture, and religion, which was mainly Roman Catholic, and they were given livestock, money, and a starter piece of land. She encouraged people from other countries, including France and Austria, to settle there too. They developed farmland, drained marshes, and built canals and roads. They also established villages, making the area a patchwork of many different cultures. The four major cultures were the Germans, the Serbs, the Hungarians, and the Romanians. The ethnic German people who lived in this area were later referred to as the Danube Swabians, or the Danube Swabians, because many of them settled along the Danube River. At the end of World War I, the Habsburg-ruled Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed. The South Slav regions joined with the Serbs and Montenegro and founded the sovereign kingdom of the Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes in 1921. Serious political problems developed after the adoption of a new constitution. King Alexander renamed the kingdom of the Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes in 1928. The new name was Yugoslavia. For the first time in their history, all the South Slavs were united under a single government. During World War II, Hitler attacked many countries in Europe. The German Air Force attacked Belgrade, the capital of Yugoslavia, on April 6, 1941. The Yugoslav army surrendered to the Germans on April 17, 1941. After that, the ethnic Germans in the Banat region of Yugoslavia were drafted into the army and were used to fight against the Serbian guerrilla fighters, or partisans. At the end of the Second World War, the large Russian armies withdrew, and the Serbian partisans in Yugoslavia were left in charge. They formed a new government. Marshal Josip Broz Tito was the ruler of this now communist Yugoslavia. On November 21, 1944, Tito decreed that all Yugoslavian Germans were enemies of the people. The ethnic Germans were stripped of their rights. The government confiscated all of their property, regardless of their citizenship or whether they had lived there for hundreds of years. The very old and very young ethnic Germans were put into Yugoslavian death and hunger camps. 36,000 perished at the camps in Molidorf, Rudolfsnad, Jerich, Gakova, Kruševil, Mitrovica, Krndia, and Valpak. At Valpak, 11,000 people died in a single year.
There were numerous other people that we knew that passed away one day to the next because there was no medical attention, there was no food, no nourishment, and so and also the cold, and then there were the rats took over, and so it was just an unpleasant and terrible situation.
The ones who were able to work were dispersed throughout the countryside or sent to Russia, where they worked as slave laborers. The government confiscated factories, businesses, and shops of ethnic Germans. the confiscated real estate and farmland amounted to about 1 million acres. Before the end of the war, some people were able to leave Yugoslavia by wagon train to Austria. From 1944 until 1948, ethnic Germans could only escape on foot during the night from concentration camps and travel underground through Hungary to refugee camps in Austria. Many were caught and returned to the camp to be punished, and then tried again to escape. The International Refugee Organization's goal was to relocate people who had fled Yugoslavia to countries that would take refugees. People in these refugee camps were trying to find a way to remove themselves from the camp environment and move to a different country to start a new life.
Right after the war, there was not much visibility about the future, and everyone was looking at where could they relocate and establish themselves, because there was no way of going back to where we had been expelled from.
After World War II, the local German organizations provided humanitarian relief to refugees in Europe. They sent thousands of care packages to the camps. The National Catholic Welfare Council and the American Aid Society of German descendants worked to pass legislation that would permit German refugees to enter into the United States. When people immigrated to the United States in the 1950s, they were required to be sponsored with a job and a place to live so that no one would be a burden of the state. The Chicago American Aid Society helped sponsor over 17,000 new immigrants to settle in the Chicago area. Ethnic German societies were formed in the Chicago area to support the new immigrants. The Danube Swabians Society, with over 3,000 members, was one of the organizations founded in 1953 to assist and to educate the members to become citizens. It provided activities and sports for the youth and socializing opportunities for all. Members still participate in dance and choir groups and celebrate festivals as ways to remember their heritage. The weekend school continues to teach the German language and the traditions of the ethnic Germans. The ethnic Germans created a better life for themselves that was filled with happiness and new opportunities.
So in all these years, then I got to know my wife, because we were both in the church choir, and there were a lot of others of our age in that church choir, a very active choir, and also we were at the Danube Swabian youth group. We would do all these activities together, and then in 1959 we got married.
They found people who had things in common with them or had a similar background. Their children grew up, went to school, practiced their religion freely, and joined social groups and ethnic societies to preserve their culture. Often they married in the same ethnic groups and created families. After 50 years, these bonds of friendship still remain. The ethnic Germans settled in Banat in the 1700s. They lived in the area peacefully for centuries. After World War II, approximately 1 million ethnic Germans were forcibly relocated from across Central and Southern Europe. Many of them died in concentration camps. Surviving the ethnic cleansing was a major turning point in the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. Survivors ended up all over the world, forming groups and societies in order to keep their Danube Swabian culture alive. They investigated and documented their stories of a dark past so they can move on to a brighter future. When people are more aware of ethnic cleansing, they may be willing to take action when it happens again.